Morality varies over time and culture. Typically, when someone thinks of morality, they first think of the Ten Commandments. However, when we go one step further, we note that there are differences in morality as expressed by different religions. Also, over time, the belief of what's right and what's wrong has changed. So let's look at just a few examples of change here in the USA. Women, once considered to be the property of men, now they're presumed to be equal. Slavery was once acceptable, now it's not. Sex outside of marriage was a sin. For many today, it's commonplace. Interracial marriage was not acceptable, now it is. Homosexuality, people had to be in the closet, now it's mostly in the open. Currently, we're arguing about gay marriage, the freedom of choice versus the right to life, and the death penalty. So now I want to look at a range of laws that determine workplace behavior and attempt to control attitude. So let's start with Title VII and similar laws. Title VII, as I'm sure you know, deals with harassment and discrimination in the workplace and some related laws. It's the Equal Opportunity Commission, EEOC, that are the administrators of Title VII and its related laws. Title VII was first written in 1964, and it provided the basis for discrimination law and judicial decisions regarding it. Over time, more and more was added because values and attitudes had changed. For example, age discrimination. Anyone over 40, that was enacted in 1967, but was not originally part of Title VII. ADA, Americans with Disability, was codified in 1990. In 1991, the laws were strengthened and stated that it prohibits discrimination in all areas of employment on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, pregnancy, childbirth, or abortion. Listen to how those have changed. What's interesting is that they added more and eliminated others. If you look back at Title VII, it also talked very specifically about not discriminating people on the basis of Vietnam veteran or veteran status. Family and medical leave, which establishes 12-week unpaid leave for medicine or family reasons for both men and women, was included in 2001. Let's talk about some terms of art as they apply to these laws. The law explains that both disparate treatment and disparate impact are illegal. Disparate treatment is when people are treated differently. For example, women paid less than men for the same job. Disparate impact is more complicated because it is when the same treatment leads to different results, and the results for a particular class of people is harmful or hurtful. That is a real hardie. Harassment is something more subtle than even overt discrimination. In harassment, there are two major forms, quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Quid pro quo, I'll do something for you if you do something for me, like asking for a sexual favor in exchange for a promotion or raise. Hostile work environment, that is when the attitude and behavior of the people around you makes you, or your kind, uncomfortable. For example, a group of African American men repeatedly calling each other the N-word with you, a white person, having to hear it daily. Okay, so this is not a business law class, but a few examples make the point, I think. The one I've chosen are because attitudes are what dictated the laws to be enacted. Now let's look at how attitude dictates how those laws are actually carried out in the workplace. I want to start by giving you two examples of ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Good example. United Way of Santa Clara County moved its offices, this is a number of years ago, from a one-story building to a much larger three-story building. The administrative offices, which had been on the first floor of the old building, were now moved up to the third floor of the new building. Among the administrative personnel was a woman with a disability that kept her unable to walk and wheelchair-bound. She was given the option of having her office on the first floor, but wanting to be with her colleagues, she asked to be on the third floor with them. Well, the problem, of course, is what do you do in an emergency? And we've all been taught in an emergency, don't use the elevator. So how does she in her wheelchair get down the stairs? Well, they came up with what I thought to be an absolutely wonderful solution. They assigned 3 different strong men, also working on the third floor, whose task it was in an emergency to immediately come to her aid and help her down the stairs. Now, 3 because at any point in time, 1 might not be available, right? 2 would be perfect, and even because these were strong men, 1 would have worked. So it's a great example how people with a positive attitude towards the need of others can work together. Now, I want to give you a second example, and this one is actually funny because it happened to me. A number of years ago, I had been in an automobile accident which left me temporarily handicapped. I was told by the medical personnel, among other things, that I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds until my knee had healed. Feeling vulnerable, I thought it would be nice of me to get a regular job instead of owning my own business. I went through a series of interviews at one of our larger semiconductor companies and passed each of these interviews for an executive training position. The last interview was over the phone with the HR person. The job description included the ability to carry 40 pounds of training material. For reasons now inexplicable to me, I felt compelled to mention to the HR woman that I was temporarily unable to carry 40 pounds, but could use wheeled luggage and airport personnel. She said, quote, "Since you don't meet our requirements, we cannot hire you," unquote. No job. So ADA requires that reasonable accommodations be made for those with disabilities. It also states that questions about disability cannot be asked during the hiring process, but only after the contract is established. Hiring, according to the law, should be blind. BFOQ. It's an acronym that for some reason I can never remember, even though I wind up teaching about it all the time. BFOQ stands for Bona Fide Occupational Qualification. There is an exception to hiring to violate ADA protection or other areas of discrimination, and it's a very hard standard to meet. It's called BFOQ, Bona Fide Occupational Qualification. For example, police officers, firefighters need to be able to do certain physical tasks. Anyone not able would not be eligible for employment in those roles. Men are not hired to be attendants in ladies' rooms. That's pretty obvious. On the other hand, customer preference is not a valid excuse for discrimination. A recent example was when a customer requested that only a white person deliver her pizza, and the delivery person assigned to that neighborhood was black. The black person was told he couldn't deliver to that house, and the white person was sent instead. The courts determined that it was not a bona fide occupational qualification, and therefore was discriminatory. On the other hand, it's not a BFOQ to state that you don't want to do something, such as marrying gays, if you're working in a government agency, and that's part of your job. Religious beliefs are not considered a valid reason for discrimination. Don't hit me. I don't make the rules. I'm merely reporting them. So attitude makes the difference. And I love Muhammad Ali. And he says champions aren't made in gyms. Champions are made from something they have deep inside them. A desire, a dream, a vision. They have to have the skill and the will, but the will must be stronger than the skill. I just absolutely love that quote Besides which, I really, really loved him. So let's look at whether something's harassment, teasing, or a friendly gesture. Although I'm sure you know of many examples of sexual harassment and discrimination, I want to offer you just a few examples to show that belief and attitude will make all the difference in how these things are established. A petite woman was walking down a long corridor when two tall, athletic men came out at the door. Seeing the woman, they each took her by the elbow and lifted her slightly off her feet, carrying her down the rest of the corridor. They thought it was cute. They said they meant it to be just a friendly gesture. She felt humiliated and reported the men to HR as having harassed her. So it was unwanted, and that's what made it wrong. If it's unwanted, it's harassment. So let's talk about training for a minute, because this is one of my pet peeves. There are companies that give lip service to training, and they offer quick online courses to their employees, thus being able to say they have legally complied. This training doesn't really change beliefs and attitudes. What it does is give rules and phrases to memorize. It's cheap. Other companies, really wanting to create emotional and psychological safety for their employees, provide small group, highly interactive training designed to answer questions, point out differences in beliefs, offer some experiential exercises, and ultimately change attitudes towards, quote, teasing, unquote, that change behavior. Every business regulation that exists today controlling business conduct is in an area where there was no control, but rather the opportunity for business to regulate by making good ethical value choices.